Hi, and welcome to The Install. We're Paloma Contreras and Caroline Jadier, and this is where we talk about design, business, and the real life behind creative work. What's inspiring us, what's challenging us, and everything in between.
Hey, Paloma.
Hey, Caroline, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to see
What's up?
you.
And it's the great thing about this um, is even though it's fun, it's new to do something. This is a podcast that I have wanted to listen to, so we
Mm-hmm.
created it. But the best thing is I get to see you on a regular
Oh,
basis, and I
I
love that.
know. It's so nice. I feel like, in this day and age, everybody's so busy. I'm
Hmm.
not someone who loves to talk on the phone. So, I'll text, and I know that social media has its ups and downs and its pros and cons, but the one thing I do love about it is like that sort of constant connection with people because you're seeing what they're
Yeah,
doing or you're sending them a meme or whatever. But this is so nice because it's like real quality time with you, even though we're not together in person, but to get to talk shop and just catch up on what's going on with each other. It's um,
and
so nice to be able to do it in this forum, but personally, just so heartening to get to spend time with my friends.
I know, right? And I feel like my goals for this are that these are like the conversations that we actually have, like
Mhm.
over lunch or dinner when we're together, different. I mean, just taking up because we do, I guess, both love design so much that it does tend to be a central focus of our conversations. And all the topics that we're covering are things that we actually just regularly talk about. So,
Absolutely.
huh. All right.
Agreed. So what's going on with you? What would you say has been your high and low so far this week?
Okay, here is my high, and it's the flip side of that coin is the low. I spring break is coming up here in Alabama,
Mhm.
and we as a family are headed to Switzerland. I could not be more excited. We're going skiing um, in Zermatt, and it's going to be great for the whole family. First of all, I love when all four of us are together. My son, Bud, as you know, is on the spectrum. He's not very athletic. He does not like to ski. Um, but my daughter loves to ski, and this is really the only time that we can. And so doing this in Switzerland is a great way because it's something of interest for him because he's excited to go to Switzerland. He loves some melted cheese. So, we're looking forward to checking out the fondue places. I've only got
Mhm.
one lined up. He's told me I've got to have two. We're going to have fondue at least 2 nights. And there's a funicular that goes up to the Matterhorn. There's a lot of stuff. And, my daughter takes after her father. She's a thrill seeker. She's going to learn how to snowboard out there. And that's going to be a lot of fun. But I am a greens girl. I don't wanna fall and break anything. I like to keep it, tight on the greens, maybe an easy blue, and I only need about a half a day, and then I'm
Mhm.
out. So, I'm delighted to have, my son with me so we can explore the village and do other things, so I'm not by myself, which I usually am because I have to beg the other two to come off the slopes. The flip side of that is I'm getting packed and I just tried on all my ski clothes from last year. And let's just say I have taken it easy the past 3 months.
Well, you had
But
an
I had to,
injury.
I have to tell, I am nursing an injury, but I had
Mhm.
to lay down on the floor, do the bridge, to zip and
Oh.
snap these pants and my legs look like sausages in a casing. So I'm just like, whew, I've been to the gym today. I was there last night, yesterday morning. I'm like, I got to get these 5 pounds off.
When do
So
you leave?
Saturday.
Can we get some new pants in time, perhaps? That's an easier path of least
Mama,
resistance.
they're too expensive.
But then
They're
what happens when they're already tight and you're in Zermatt enjoying the fondue? They're gonna get tighter.
Well, because when I'm skiing, I'm exercising all day.
True, 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 true.
Yeah,
Yes, burning
so I'm
calories
burning
all day long.
calories. I don't
Mhm.
end up when I'm skiing, I don't end up gaining a lot of weight, because I don't drink alcohol because of the altitude, and then
Yeah.
with the exercise and everything, I tend to kind of, lose a little bit, so I just wanna go into it. But anyway, so I'm keeping it tight, pushing the fluids, trying to do whole foods,
Mhm.
get back. And when I get back, I'm starting back my exercise. So anyway, so tell me about you. What's your
Oh,
high and low?
good. Well, our my high would be we just got back from spring break. So our spring break was a little bit earlier. It was just happened last week and we went to Cabo. So at this age, Margot's 4.5, a beach vacation is just kind of the easy thing to do with
Oh
a
yeah,
little
of
one.
course.
And we had such a nice time. It was as relaxing as it could be traveling with a young child. So I had some spa time. I got to finish my book. I was reading Strangers by Belle Burden that I feel everybody in my feed is currently reading. It was
Mhm.
excellent. So I got to finish that. But it was nice to have a little bit of time away. And we had been kind of nervous about going to Mexico. And I'm so glad that we did because truly it was business as usual. We didn't feel any different than we have in any previous visit. So
Right.
it worked out really nicely. So it was nice time away. And then my low, I know are aware of this. My mom has not been doing well, so we're just
Yeah.
dealing with some stuff in our family, dealing with a parent who's aging and has been ill for the last couple of years and now, she's got some memory loss and cognition stuff going on, so we're just working through all of that and figuring it out. Which is not an easy nut to crack or, an easy road to travel, but it's life.
No, it's not. I know. I've been down that road. And it is if we're lucky enough, an inevitable part of our life as we, the last years will, you know, are challenging for ourselves and for those who love us. And but y'all are so sweet. I mean, just honoring your mother and taking care of her. And it's tough to go through, but it's kind of like childbirth,
Mm,
like, everybody on the planet
yeah,
has, if we're lucky enough, dealt with this in due time, and not early,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's the toss-up. I have a
Mhm.
friend who, when I was going through this, lost her mother when she was, in her early 30s, and she was like,
Oh
"The only thing
gosh.
I can say is, you're lucky that you've
Yeah,
made it this long, and it is
yeah,
it is challenging, I feel for you and for your mom because it's
yeah,
no fun.
yeah, that's, it's hard, but I know you understand.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we'll move on to lighter matters. We did get a listener question. And actually with, it being early days of the podcast, it's such a timely question. So this person asked, "How did the two of you meet and what prompted you to start a podcast together?" And I will say Caroline and I have known each other, I don't know exactly how many years, but probably going on 10 at least. Like we knew of each other prior to that, but then we met when I came to Birmingham and you
On
hosted
your
me. I
first
knew
tour.
I knew Caroline had the most beautiful house in Birmingham and she
You're
invited
so
me
sweet.
over to come for a drink and to see her gorgeous house. And so I was delighted to do that and then even more delighted to find a person who would become my dear friend over the years.
Yeah.
And we've spent time together. I mean, I feel like it's typically when we're traveling, we will like
Mhm.
happen to cross paths in High Point or, various design destinations for design events. Or we were just in Thomasville, Georgia for the antique show there. We were both speakers. So it's nice that, we're in the same industry. And so not only do we share that similar profession and passion, but that it also brings us together at different times.
Yeah.
But this podcast really was your idea. So I had a podcast years ago in 2020. I started the Style Files as a passion project because we were all stuck at home and I was missing all of those events and trips and connecting with my design friends and having conversations about design, talking shop, all of those things. And so I started this podcast literally on an app on my phone. There was no equipment. This is a much more professional endeavor than last time. But it was really fun and it was very well received. And to this day, people always ask about the podcast and tell me like it got them through COVID and will you ever bring it back? And so I'm so excited to be bringing a new podcast to the forefront. And I'm so glad that you asked me to be part of it because this was all your idea. So tell us about what you saw. I know you're an avid listener and you felt like there
Well,
was a gap in the
yeah.
design podcast space.
Well, I spent all last year traveling, and
Hmm.
so I would weekly burn through my podcasts. And don't get me wrong, I love the design podcasts that exist, but I felt like what I was seeing in other industries, other areas that are not interior design, are shows that are more like what I wanted and was hopeful that you would be down for creating is just discussing weekly different topics that come along, different events that are rolling out, and also you and I, when we get together, discuss things that I think everybody's interested in, like beauty, like fashion, like what's on TV, like what we're reading, and
Hmm.
there's a huge community out here, and we're only just engaging through social media, which is 2D and kind of flat. And I just felt like, particularly when you see the comments on things on Instagram and all the ask me anything
Hmm.
responses, just seems like there's a lot there and there's nobody that's really capitalizing on that. And I was listening to the market report on NPR in the morning on the way to the gym. And they were talking about some next Netflix investment into podcasting and how they see it as the future of media and everything. And I thought, and so I just texted you like 6 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning, like, would you be down for redoing, revamping and doing a podcast with me? Because I just feel like you and I both are doers. We have a
Hmm.
relationship. I mean, I also only want to do things with people that I can count on
Hmm.
and just thought you've already done it once, you know how to do it and like you're so dependable and why not? Let's just give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. I feel like we've had so much fun figuring things out and coming up with the structure and our technical challenges and all the things, but the conversations have been
Woo!
really fun. So I'm so glad to be doing this with you. I'm so happy you asked.
Yeah, me
So
too.
I'd love to dive a little bit more deeply. I feel like people have probably come to this podcast through a variety of avenues. Either they followed you or they followed me, or there's some cross pollination, but perhaps there isn't, or maybe a friend sent it to them and they may not be as familiar with us, or perhaps they're a more recent follower. And so they may not really know our background story. So I thought it might be nice to take a little bit of time and just sort of introduce ourselves to the audience and let them know how we got here, who we are. So we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into design. I know it's a second career for both of us.
Right, right. Like you, I came to this later, although actually much later than you did. I was an attorney. I was a good student. Um, and so my parents encouraged me to pursue a law degree, which they wisely said will help you no matter what you're doing. You don't have to be a lawyer, but you'll never regret having that education. But, in law school, you get all wrapped up in it and kind of feel like a failure if you're not pursuing a career in law. Maybe not, or at least I felt that way. And also, even though I have always been interested in design, grew up in a small town and I went to college out in Pastoral, Virginia. So there was nowhere to look around and see an interior design shop or see
Mhm.
it as a profession. It seemed to be more something that housewives did or were good at, and not a serious profession like it would have been at that same time in bigger cities, if that makes any sense. It just was too small of a town to have anything like that. So I didn't see to believe that it was a possibility. But then after I had children, it got very complicated and demanding to have young children and travel as much as I did. And as you mentioned, I built a house with James Carter, and it's on a very busy street, and a lot of people pass by it all the time. And then it started showing up on Instagram, and people that knew that it was my house would tag me in it and say that's Caroline Jadera's house. And people started reaching out, like you reached out, and other people, and so that just kind of brought me to this moment of people starting to inquire about my services kind of organically
Mhm.
at a same time. Like that's on the rise as the law career is on the decline, as far
Mhm.
as so demanding, so complicating. My children are getting older. There's more time that needs to be spent with them. And so it just kind of seemed like the right moment. And my husband got everything together for me and wrapped all the documents, oh, put them in a folder, wrapped it under the tree, and said, "It's time." And truly, we were both really looking for an off ramp in some way. But I think he knew that I am not somebody who can sit around.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I have moments when I do, but I'm not a napper. I'm a mover.
Yeah.
I'm always like moving around doing things that I rarely sit down only just to for an hour at night to watch TV. So I know he felt like too I wouldn't just quit. I would have to have something to jump to. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like something at least to say. And that's how I got started. And yeah,
Wonderful.
um, there's the story in 5 minutes or less.
Yeah. What is at the core of your design ethos?
What exactly do we mean by design
Well, your
ethos?
style, your approach, your
Yeah.
sensibility.
We can only do what we know and what we like. And I am steeped in tradition. I guess that's kind of how I grew up in homes that are more traditional American design with antiques and color and pattern. And I will say that I went through a moment of everything being cream and off-white and beige, and I love that. I still love it. Jerry Brimmerman and Betsy Brown were
Mhm.
all out here doing this just really fabulous, and that really hooked me into design, a real passion. Think you can see that on the exterior of my house, the white on
Mhm.
white. Um, but when I started making serious decisions. My first house was all kind of creams and beiges and pale creamy yellows and pale aquas, little to no pattern. I just kind of came back to what I know. And as I started studying it, I feel like so many of the greats, Bunny Williams, and I really love Billy Baldwin and Albert Hadley, and
Mhm.
just started studying all of those people. As I began studying textiles, it drew me more into historical textiles. Those are the ones that I'm really interested in, the really old ones that feeds into my childhood vacationing in Colonial Williamsburg and the interiors there. It's just kind of what I knew. That's my design aesthetic. But I will say I do appreciate and enjoy and would be totally game to go more modern. I do love
Mhm.
that. I just I get called into more color and pattern.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of being enthusiastic and loving design, regardless of the style that you work in. If something is done well, you can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's not your exact style. So, what would you say is a signature of your style? Now knowing, your particular work is rooted in tradition, what is sort of that common thread that will tie one room to the next or one project to the next? What makes it a Caroline project?
I think you'll find a beautiful floral fabric in every room. I mean,
Mhm.
if I had to say one thing, and at least some antiques, a few, not doesn't have to be everything, but yeah,
Mhm.
those are unifying elements. A floral fabric somewhere, not
Mhm.
always. If we had to like tally it all up, I would think that that would be those would be the unifiers.
Fantastic. What is your current dream project? If you could work anywhere with anyone, what would you choose?
You know, I mean, dream project would be someplace that is fun to be at, easy to get to, a great project with a fun, nice client. It could
Mhm.
be anywhere. I wouldn't want to limit it to a particular location. You know, I got really excited, was on the precipice of a project, but the client's job situation changed abruptly. They had to move overseas for about 4 years. And so that project was put on hold, but it's in Palm Beach and it was going to be a pretty fabulous project with a great architect. And I was really palpitating about that one. But, you know, I mean, I'm like everybody else. I would love to do like a boutique hotel in a
Mhm.
tropical location that you had to go check on in the off season. I
The
don't know.
sacrifices we make.
Exactly. Exactly. That would be great. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I know you're also passionate about beauty. That's something that we talk about a lot, and I'm always consulting with you about what I need to be trying or doing or buying. What are your top 3 products or treatments at this moment? I know you're always trying new things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one thing that I think has changed my skin texture, it's a triumvirate. It is a retinol product. I heard Andrew Huberman talking with a dermatologist who basically said all you really need is a retinol. And so a retinol, but also skin flooding, this Korean technique of dousing the skin with toners and essences that are just have ceramides and kind of nutrition for the skin and moisture before you then put on your skin barrier, and at night for me, that's not Neutrogena, what's it called? Aquaphor, yeah.
Mm,
So,
mhm.
those are my 3, like, for skin, beauty, and texture, that's where I'm at right now. I think
Nice.
they do they've done more for my skin than anything recently.
Well, your skin always looks incredible, and,
Thank you.
you look I mean, you look amazing, and you look so much younger
You're
than
so
anyone
sweet.
would ever imagine. Like, how do I
That's
word that in a
easy,
way that
easy.
sounds like I'm not okay, I'm gonna just stop. You look great. I'm gonna leave it at that. You look great. You look 40,
Okay, great.
39.
Thank you.
Okay. So what might people be surprised to learn about you?
What might people be surprised to learn about me? Um, that, hmm, uh, well, I'm pretty much an open book, but, I am very, very much an introvert and very shy. I have a really hard time talking to people, even though I can speak
Mm,
at a thing.
mhm.
I'm not, often a first speaker, and that is, um, because of my own insecurities. I just have a tough time. I always feel like people just, like, wouldn't wanna be bothered, or I can't get it together. Like, if I see a celebrity in the wild, for instance, I'm never gonna speak because 'cause I'm too
Oh, no.
intimidated, and I feel the same way about just random people that I know out in the wild. I'm like, "Oh my god, there they are. What should I do? What should I" and my head starts going. So I just sit tight and never do anything. And I think I present more confident than that.
Mhm.
And so I think people would be very surprised how shy and insecure and intimidated I am in social situations.
Hmm. I think That's surprising to me even as your friend because I know you to be more reserved, and I understand the introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert situation, like, being able to speak before an audience and, do that kind of thing feels much less intimidating or easier than going up to somebody at a cocktail party that you don't know and assuming that they want to speak to you. Like,
Right.
I can relate to that, but I would have thought it was more 'cause we're both Scorpios, like that Scorpio tendency to want to observe, the desire to have a more meaningful conversation and connect with a smaller group of people versus, being a social butterfly and like chit chat with anybody and everybody. I hate small talk. I literally would rather poke my eyes out than make small talk all day. I detest
I
it.
I could not agree more. And I've spent this past year, it's funny. Y When I first got started in this industry, I was very covetous of invitations for dinners. They
Mm,
seem like the most magical things in the world, and the images on social media are fabulous.
mhm,
But the reality of those situations are usually that you are seated next to 4 people, right, left, and 2 across from you that you don't know that well.
mhm.
And these dinners take like 3.5 hours, and I
Yes.
am just wiped at the end of it. I am
Yeah.
just worn out because it's even though the people are interesting and I love, but I am very much a Scorpio. I'd much rather sit there and listen to everybody else talk
Mhm.
and just hear what they're saying rather than having to participate.
Yeah. Well, I think it boils down to also, like, when you're with a core group of people that you really know well, I think those interactions can feel energizing, like being around you or um good friends or I'm in a design forum and we had a little retreat back at the end of January. That was so amazing. It was like energizing, recharging.
Yeah.
It felt just like comfortable and safe, come as you are. But when you're just making small talk, it is so draining because you're just like, "Okay, what else can I share about this person? What can I ask them about now?" And
Yeah.
so, some people are very gifted, natural conversationalists and, take a I am interested in people, if I connect with
Yeah.
somebody, I am
Yeah.
interested in getting to
Sure.
know them further, but it certainly takes more effort.
Yeah, there's some people that are just very relaxed and
Mhm.
comfortable and all of that. And there's some of us for whom it is more challenging to come outside, out of your head and into what's going on around you. I am very much always in my head, spinning
Yeah.
around this Scorpio situation.
Do you ever go back and, like, replay a conversation that you had after the fact and think, "Oh my gosh, what did they think about that? I shouldn't have said that. I hope I didn't offend them." I whatever.
The older I get, the less I do that, the more
Mm,
I'm letting go of that, but, I yeah, I do that, a all the time, over and over and over again and think, "Why did I say that? They must have thought I was crazy or that was the wrong thing to say, or I didn't mean to say it in that way. I think it hit wrong," you
mhm.
know? But less of that as I get older. It does come up, and then I tell myself, "I don't really care anymore." I
I
think when
mean,
you get older, you start
yeah.
feeling less, like you care about those things.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Uh,
the beauty of getting older, for sure. How do you balance your personal and professional lives? I know there's a lot to balance, when you're
yeah.
running your own business and you have kids and everything else.
I have to say, I'm really lucky in that, my husband is, he and I were law school sweet mates. Whether or not we were suite mates is not anything I care to discuss, but we were law school sweethearts, and, so he's been at it for a while, and, he's also, just, uber mensch in that he's always been able to manage everything with ease, and, I'm the one over here flustered trying to get everything together, but luckily for me, he's kind of in an established place in his career. We're not both on
Mhm.
the rise and trying to get all of our legs up underneath us. So he, in particular with this book tour this past year, he has taken the laboring oar. He has taken the job of feeding the family on the
Mhm.
weeknights and just kind of taking over the details of Lou's schooling, and keeping me in the loop. But, there are things that come up, things that have to be processed, put in, calendared, and all that kind of stuff. So he's kind of keeping the family calendar and doing that to allow me, because I have been so focused on design
Yeah.
in the office, and then the book tour, so much travel, everything's kind of out of the office. So that's been good. It's that the only way that I can do it is with a partner who's there supporting me. If I was a single mom having to do this, everything would have fallen apart already.
Yeah. No, it makes such a huge difference, and Steven is such a lovely
Yeah.
supportive husband and father. So it makes all the difference to have somebody like that. Absolutely. It would be too much. Um, as we start to wrap up, what is the best piece of advice you have received?
When in doubt, just hang out.
Mm. You
Yeah.
know, you give me that advice sometimes because I get really worked up about things, and I'm not an impulsive person, but I am a control freak, and so I feel like when something's out of my control or I feel like something's
Trying
not
to
going right,
control it.
I've gotta fix it, and I need to fix
Do
it
it.
in that moment,
Do
and
it. You're
sometimes
a doer.
I'll reach out to you for advice a lot, and you're always like, you don't have to do this right now. You don't have to decide, like, just mellow for a bit."
I think our gut, it takes a minute to hear your gut.
Mhm,
And, it with anything from a fabric, choice, or
mhm,
a piece of furniture or whatever it is, your gut will tell you, but sometimes you can't. It takes a while to hear it. And I think
yeah,
whatever you keep coming back to is your gut talking to you. The
mhm,
thing just keep your brain keeps going back. It's like, okay, this must be the right course. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
that's the best advice for everything. Just when the advice came about making a decision about an interior um item, but it is really for life in general.
I'm
Okay.
so curious, did you go with the original item, like, when you were given that advice? Or what happened?
No, I just hung out and I
Mm.
realized it was the wrong thing. I was
Mm.
trying to put a square peg in a, round hole, and it wasn't
Mhm.
working, and, I waited, and something a different idea came along, and,
Yeah,
it was all the better, and I knew when it came around, the next thing came around, this is this is the right solution.
I
Yeah.
love that. Wise words.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so why don't you tell us now let's get started
Mm.
with you. Tell us how you got started.
Well, in a nutshell, because it's a long and winding road. So, I am formerly a high school Spanish teacher. So, foreign languages were my first love. I'm a native Spanish speaker, majored in Spanish, minored in Italian. Had no idea what I was going to do for a living. Like you, I just never knew of or thought of interior design as a career. In hindsight, I would have loved to have studied interior design formally, but, alas, that was not my path. And so I taught for a little over 4 years. And in the summer before my last school year as a teacher, I started a blog. And leading up to that, I'd gotten to the point where I was crying every Sunday night because I didn't want to go back to work.
Mm,
I
mhm.
didn't like it. It's not that I hated the subject matter or the children or I mean children, I was teaching high school, the kids. Um it felt creatively stifling and I knew that it wasn't where I needed to be. It just didn't fit and I wanted out. But because again, like my time was not my own. I could not eat lunch when I wanted. I could not go to the restroom if I needed to. I had to
I
wait
don't
for the
know how
kid,
they do it.
or I couldn't even quit when I wanted to because it was the middle of the school year. So, It just felt very frustrating and caging at the time, and luckily, my husband, Fabian, has always been so incredibly supportive, and he was like, "If you don't like this, figure something else out." But up until that happened, I had started writing a blog just very organically. I'd always enjoyed writing, and it was a way to get myself to do some creative writing again, so it didn't start out as a design blog. A few months go by, we've purchased our first house then. We're working on, a teacher's salary, and we're like 25 years old at the time, so we needed some ideas, and, of course, I read all the magazines, but I was looking online, and there really weren't very many blogs. There were probably 4 that I can remember, and none of them were my style in particular. I didn't resonate with them as much, so I just naturally started sharing things that I found inspiring in the home space. um, and then about a year in, Better Homes and Gardens had started doing this like Blogger of the Month column in their print magazine. And they featured me 1 year or 1 month. And suddenly I saw my readership blow up. So at that point, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Behind the scenes, like, other things are happening. I'm growing increasingly unhappy at work, and so my husband encourages me to quit. I do, and then I start focusing on my blog, and to supplement my income, I was tutoring some kids, in Spanish in the evenings, and so I was basically making up my teacher salary by tutoring for a few hours, and then I could spend the days working on my blog. And, I'll try to keep this short because it's a very long story, but one of the kids that I taught happened or tutored happened to be Fabian's boss's son, and Fabian works for Visual Comfort. So, his boss's son was a kid that I tutored for a couple of years, and one day his boss, Andy Singer, calls me up and he says, I'm looking for a marketing director. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary. We've never had a marketing department. And I've interviewed all of these people and they claim to be marketing experts, but none of them know how to market themselves. Will you come meet with me? And I said, sure, but you do realize I have no marketing experience. I'm a teacher. And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Like he still wanted to meet with me. So I went in and I met with him and he sort of described the job to me. And I'll never forget at the very end, he tapped on his computer screen and said, "You know what's going on in there." So he understood that things were really moving in a digital direction. This was like 2010, 2011. And he hired me, and I was in that job for a few years, and I learned a ton. So, while I don't have a formal background in design, I feel like I have a really valuable, um, unorthodox education in design because I've been able to explore various facets. So, I was working in marketing, focusing on the product side of the business, working with people like Thomas O'Brien and Alexa Hampton and Suzanne Kassler. I was responsible for launching the Erin collection when they started working with Erin as a licensor. So that was actually my final project, was launching her first collection at market. Um, because I was there for a few years and then started to get the itch because in between I'd been tutoring and then I freelanced for a long time and sort of worked as a quote unquote influencer before that was actually what we called it. And so I was like, I don't know. I don't know that I like working a 9 to 5 in somebody else's office. Like, I want to do my own thing. And I started to get the itch to design. And I knew a lot of interior designers by this point, and I always thought to myself, that job sounds terrible. Like, I don't know that I want to do that. Sounds like a lot of headaches and babysitting and logistical issues. Maybe I'll do that when I'm older. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to do something on my own. So we launched Erin and I gave Andy my notice. I think I gave him a few months because I was like, "I'll get you through market. I'll do all of the, PR follow-up and marketing follow-up post-market." And then I left in May. And thankfully, I was very fortunate. A project had sort of fallen into my lap, and I'd done little things here and there for blog readers and friends, but this was a real full house project. So I was able to start my business with a real project, learned so much along the way. And since then, what else have I done? I've started a store in 2019. So I have Paloma and Co., which is a brick and mortar and online shopping
Gorgeous.
destination, and written a couple of books and have dipped my toe into product licensing. So that visual comfort relationship came full circle in
Oh,
2022
yeah.
when I launched my lighting collection with them. and have a trim line with Schumacher. So I've gotten to do a lot of things in the space. And I feel like what's so funny is I worked so hard for a long time to prove myself as a designer. I felt very self-conscious about having started as a blogger, and I wanted people to take me seriously. And now
Yeah.
I'm kinda like, maybe I shouldn't have given that up because there's so much money to be made online and fewer headaches, it seems at times, but I love it. I've never looked back. I feel so fortunate to do something that also is my true passion. I asked you earlier about, balancing between personal and professional, and I feel like both sides are so incredibly enmeshed for me. When I'm traveling abroad, the thing that I want to do is go shop the flea markets. I want to go to galleries. I want to do all those things. Like that's what excites me. And I would do it whether or not this was my profession. So that feels, super, super fortunate to me because I know that not everybody can say the same and they don't
Right.
always have the opportunity or the chance to really go out and chase a dream the way that we have.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, all of us who are have successful interior design careers, and like usually it's something you only come to if you're passionate about it.
mhm.
And
Well,
so,
and what's so eye-opening too is so many people in this profession at the top of their game really have come to it as a second career.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's not to knock anybody who, has studied design formally. Obviously, that those are invaluable skills. We could not run our business without, our team of people
absolutely.
who
Yep.
have the formal training and the technical skills that I don't possess. But I think a lot of it is innate. And also
Yeah.
having a business acumen, people don't realize that. I think a lot of people look at us and they think, "Oh gosh, like how fun." That's what people always say to me when I meet someone new. They're like, "Oh, what do you do?" "I'm an interior designer." "Oh, how fun. That sounds so fabulous." Or like that
You
sounds like such
really
a fun job. And I'm like, "It can be at
there are
times,
elements of it
but
that are
most
fun.
of it, is like the true
Business.
running of a business and its psychology and its logistics and its all of the things that, people don't always give us credit for.
90% is back office. I
Mhm.
mean, all of the details of running a business and procurement and logistics and um, HR and a high end client um, interaction and
Yeah.
keeping clients happy and
Mhm.
engaged. All of it. It's a lot of work. You do have to love it. I
Yeah.
think you couldn't do it, but it is very right and left brain. If you
Yeah.
are only right brain, and I think that's the creative side, right? Is
Mhm.
that right brain? We say
I
left,
always
but
get those backwards. I think so.
I do too. That's why I'm saying right, because I would say left brain. I'm saying right now. But anyway, the side of the brain that includes all the creative, you have to have the rational, um, um, organized side of your brain as well,
Yeah.
in equal strength in
Right.
order to make a go of it, for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so tell me about your core design ethos.
Like you, I feel like my style is certainly rooted in a more traditional foundation. I think it's just what I love. I feel like that imparts a timelessness to spaces.
Mhm,
But while I love color and pattern, I like to use it a little bit more sparingly. I mean,
mhm, sure.
there's always pattern present and color present in my rooms, but I'm not a maximalist to the
Mhm,
true,
mhm, mhm,
interpretation necessarily. I like for there to be a little breathing space. I love to use white in certain spaces while we might have some beautiful wallpapered rooms, colored rooms. There's always going to be like a little sort of breather in between.
mhm,
Because I like for the eye to have a place to rest. I personally get overwhelmed by too much and too
mhm.
many like flourishes. So there
Yeah.
is sort of a pared back quality, I think. I love antiques. I love abstract art. I feel like that's sort of a hallmark. I love mixing textures and periods. I like spaces that feel kind of collected over time.
Well, what are your 3 elements that you'll
My
find in all of your
indispensable design elements. I would say things that I use often, that are important and common sort of themes would probably be nice, like good lighting.
yeah.
I like a natural fiber rug generally, and so we'll
Oh,
use
yeah.
wool rugs all the time, but there tends to be like, I can't think of a project where we haven't used some natural fiber, and I feel like
Okay.
that's that textural element.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I guess I use chinoiserie panels a lot,
Yeah.
so I like
Yeah.
that. I think there's feminine feminine
Uh-huh.
elements, whether it's a chinoiserie wallpaper, um, it might be a floral fabric, but not quite as much as you do, where you said, like, every room would have it,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, and those chinoiserie panels are a great foil for the more calm aesthetic of, kind of cleaner abstract art, modern lighting, and you know, solids, because it's just the opposite, like
Right,
the hand
yeah.
painting and detailing, but in such a beautiful way. We're
Well,
so
I
lucky.
think every space needs a little bit of attention,
Yeah.
and people sometimes ask, like, "Well, what does that word mean?" And it can be juxtaposition, it can be an element of surprise. It's just
Mhm.
sort of that magic ratio of, if we're trying to create a space that feels layered and timeless, as much of a buzzword as that is, we're we're always playing with that ratio of like, how many traditional elements do we add? How much modern do we
Yeah.
infuse into a room?
Yeah.
Masculine, feminine, you know, if the room is like clear colors, if we're using softer tones, do we impart a little bit of black into that room in order to ground it and give it like a little sense of gravitas? So
Yes, some
it's not a
masculine,
perfect
feminine.
science.
Yeah, no,
It's a
no, no, no.
constant like sort of tweaking
It's
and, yeah.
and I often think of it as like the old-fashioned scales, where you had
Yes.
the things that you
Mhm.
little weights on the scale, and it comes down, and you think, "Oh, I've gotta put a little weight on this side of the scale to get it back," and it's always gonna be fluctuating, it's always gonna be not exactly
Right.
balanced. You don't want that, but you don't want it to tilt
Too
off.
far one way. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly, you wanna have some counterweight, because if everything in a room is shiny, it's just, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just
Then you're
or
in Vegas. Yes.
old, or everything is new, or, that there's no, pushback on anything, maybe that's the tension. Okay, tell me, um, who are your 3 go to, or who are you most inspired by, and influenced by as far as
Mm.
designers?
I always go back to Billy Baldwin. I feel like of all the designers past and present, he's probably my greatest
Yeah,
influence. I love Albert Hadley. I love David Hicks. It's ironic that most people would probably describe my work as more feminine than masculine, but my favorite and
mhm,
most influential designers are actually men.
yeah,
Um, I also love Veer Grenny. I mean, I think for a contemporary designer, he's probably someone that I just anything that he does, every time I see a room of his, I just love
mhm,
it and it's perfection,
perfection,
and I think about, like, how do I create my version of that? I love Tom Shearer, and he's sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum, like, he's
mhm,
so great at mixing things, and even at
mhm,
his level, he's mixing high and low, and everything feels very collected and just has a sort of, like, cool, casual, like, effortlessness to it.
mhm, mhm.
I think David Netto is another one
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of encapsulates that sort of essence and vibe.
He's the only designer that I can think of that has no, that's not true. Well, no. Everything that David does, you can tell is done by a man. It's very
Mhm,
masculine. There are
mhm.
no feminine elements in his design, but I
That's true.
study it and I love it for that reason. Like, if you
That's
want something
true.
hip and masculine,
Mhm,
call Netto.
mhm.
Most of the other male designers could have been done by a male or female, I feel like. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Feminine. enough. Even Tom Shearer.
Yes, he will veer into that territory for sure.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
of those 3 contemporary designers I named, Veer Grenny does the most feminine work in
Yeah.
terms of his
Yeah.
palette, the details,
Yeah.
materiality, that it more
Sure.
he's more traditional
Yeah.
probably definitely than the other 2. But that's such a true observation.
Albert could do masculine if left
Mhm.
to his own devices, but
Yeah.
still, even then, you could if you just saw images and the question was the designer a male or a female? Not who
Mhm.
was it designed for, but who designed this?
Well, you think about, the rooms that he did for the Pines, those
Yeah.
were definitely more feminine. Now, if you compare his work, if you put Sister
Mhm.
Parrish's work
Just
side by
compare.
side with Albert Hadley's, you
Yeah.
always knew which was a
Or
sister room and which was an Albert room. But
for sure.
ironically, I mean, I love Sister Parish, but to me, like that, there's a fussiness that
Yeah.
I'm not as comfortable with some of those rooms. It's like so many ruffles and so many things. I've always been so drawn to Albert's work and that
Yeah.
sort of
I
like
agree.
pared back nature, and it feels very collected, and it's just
Of
there's cool.
Yeah, of the 2, for sure, Eileen Hadley rather than Parrish, although I have a strong, deep appreciation for Sister Parrish and what she did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so now, tell me something people would be surprised to learn about you.
Ooh. Well, I like to think I'm really funny. My husband might contest that. I make myself laugh, and if I can make myself laugh, then I'm happy. If you laugh along with me,
Yeah.
great, but if I'm laughing, I'm thrilled. So, I like to think I'm funny. People often say that I surprise them, and I think that's because outwardly, I I'm a kind person, I'm a gracious person, I'm a generous person. I think
Great.
people have a perception that I am only those things, and I may come across, again, I'm introverted like you, so I think that they get an impression when they don't know me, and
Yeah.
as they get to know me, like, I peel back some of those layers, and I am very self-deprecating, and I do curse, and I like things that may surprise you. I love all kinds of music. So, I
Now,
I don't know, I guess I'm like an
I've
enigma in a
never
sense.
I don't think I've heard you utter a curse word.
Really?
I don't think so.
Spend more time with me, and I will.
Maybe you're always minding your P's and Q's. I am surprised. I'm like everybody else.
Okay,
I'm
good.
surprised to learn that.
Good, yeah.
Okay, now what's your dream project?
Oh, I mean, I feel like I would agree with you that more than a specific destination, it is just a great
Yeah.
client who just comes to you because they love you, they're on
Yes.
board with your style.
So,
They've been through this before, they know how it
yeah.
goes.
Oh,
They're
big one.
busy and they just say like, "I trust you,
Yeah.
take it and run with it." We have an unlimited budget would be great. Like super realistic would also be highly welcome.
Yeah.
So just good solid budget that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think some creative collaboration is nice. I love working with clients who
Yeah.
have design opinions, who care, and like who have great art collections, or where, we're really in sync about things. That's fun. I like that more than like true carte blanche.
Yeah.
Um,
I do too.
so I think something like that. And then in terms of location, I'm trying to think of a place where I haven't worked. Places that I have worked that I would love to do more work that I just
Mhm.
have fallen in love with. I love working in Palm Beach. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
fantasy, and I feel like that style is very simpatico
Easy.
with mine. I we just are wrapping up a project in Kenilworth, which is it's on the North Shore of Chicago, and all of
Mhm.
those suburbs up there are so beautiful.
Yeah.
I've worked in Lake Forest as well, and those David Adler houses, I mean, he's my
Oh,
favorite architect of all time. Like,
yeah.
I would love that's
Absolutely.
my dream project. I would love to do a David Adler project in
Yeah.
Lake Forest, Illinois. So if you have, somebody's recently bought a David Adler, call me up. I'd love it.
No kidding. Those houses are so amazing. I went on a ICAA tour of the Gold Coast up there and
Mhm.
just Um, I mean, he's so talented. I think Gil Schaefer meets that today, but it's more, when you're doing that on the Gold Coast, the Gilded Age, it was a different time and moment.
Mhm.
The world called for a different house
Right.
that few are interested in creating today. So you
Yeah,
get to see so much more um, amazing architectural details, I guess, in the Adler houses. Love it.
definitely.
Love
And
it. Okay.
what's fascinating is they've really done such a great job, generally speaking, in that part of Chicago in terms
Mhm.
of
Thank
preservation and maintaining these houses. And obviously, as you said, people don't live or entertain in the way that they did
you.
in
Mhm.
during that era now,
Have the
like the
staffs.
no, there you don't have the staff. And so I appreciate people who restore, preserve, maintain, update those gorgeous houses as opposed to tearing them down. Um, if you look at the Gold Coast of New York on Long Island, Oyster Bay, Great
Mhm.
Neck, like those areas, Locust Valley, a lot of those houses, and some of those may have been even more grand actually, for the same reason, like they just become too difficult to maintain, too expensive, and so people have torn them down over the years, but there's still a lot of beautiful, amazing old architecture in
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Sorry to go on a tangent.
Oh, yeah. No, 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 no. Okay. What are your 3 beauty products?
Oh, 3 beauty products, let's see, I think generally speaking, if we go to, like, products or treatments, one thing that I've been doing recently that I have really enjoyed is there's a place called Skin Farm, Pharm, and I think they have locations in a lot of cities across the country. They have one here in Houston, and I went and I tried this thing called a gold fusion. It's what they call it. It's like their name, but I think you could probably find a version of it. It's like a PRP facial, basically. So they
Mhm.
they draw your blood, they
Yeah,
spin
yeah.
your plasma with hyaluronic acid and what's the other thing? Um Juvederm or something. They like spin it and
Mm.
then they create this infusion and they stamp it with this like
Yeah.
little thing. So it's not as bad as microneedling. It's much gentler and there's
Uh-huh.
no downtime. So you're like a little bit flush and red when you leave. And then an hour later, your skin looks amazing. It's like glowing from within. And you
Yeah.
just like moisturize a little bit, use a gentle cleanser. Don't wear makeup the rest of that day. But by the next day, like you're up and ready. Like you can put on
Yeah.
makeup and go do whatever. So I feel like that's a lot of bang for the buck. I've really enjoyed that.
Use that. Yeah.
Recently, I've started doing lymphatic drainage massage.
Oh.
I've done it probably 3 or 4 times, and it's interesting. I feel like it's a different massage experience. I wouldn't say it's painful, but it's intense, and I do see a difference. I feel like I feel lighter, my pants fit. Oh, you should go get a lymphatic drainage massage before you go skiing so your pants fit.
How am
Because
I
they
gonna fit
will.
this in?
Make the time because your body, like, it just
Yeah.
drains all of the fluid that's trapped in your body, and literally your pants will fit better. I don't know that the scale moves, I haven't tracked that any of the times I've done it,
Oh,
but,
I just need a little bit of room. I just need a little bit.
go get a lymphatic
Enjoy it.
drainage massage. So I love that, and then, in terms of skincare, I'm trying to think. You got me into the toners, so I do use toner now.
Makes a
Um,
big difference with
yeah.
the moisture that your skin has when you wake up in the morning, I find.
Absolutely, and I feel like I crave it. I love that, like, having the essence on my face,
Yeah.
and it just, like, sort of wakes you up. It's so refreshing.
Yeah. It's nice. And
Yes.
I've gotten to where the first thing I do is spray my face with water and then put like a little toner on it. It's
Mhm.
like my skin is almost hot when I wake up in the morning with all this, hot air or
Yeah.
whatever. It feels really good and refreshing. Okay. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, Paloma?
Oh, I've gotten a lot of good advice. I should have prepared for this a little bit more. I'm sure I'll share more nuggets over the course of our podcast. I think one rule that I've always lived with that I've held true is, um to thine own self be true. I
Yeah.
feel like in this day and age, it's so easy To get to be influenced by the things that we see, especially in a career where you have your own business. Everybody's path is different. No two interior design firms run exactly the same way, and I feel like a lot of people can get caught up in comparison, or like,
Mhm.
goals can become unrealistic, or you start to ask yourself like, why do I want that, or should I be doing that? And I think regardless of what the question or the challenge is, if you revert back to that little nugget, being true to thyself, I think you'll end up where you need to, and you'll make the right decision, because it doesn't
Yeah,
matter how your neighbor handled something, or what they did, or the path that they took, or what they're working on now.
yeah,
If you really sort of take a step back, drown out that noise, and sort of dig into yourself and listen to your inner voice, that's never going to steer you in the wrong direction.
yeah. That's great advice. It really is. It's it's a call to grounding
Hmm.
for sure. And I think we're both, I mean, part of our friendship is playing off of that and encouraging each other in that way. So many, I think women are good at supporting each other in that kind of endeavor and trying to honor yourself, in
Definitely.
your decisions and not being ashamed of who you are and who you aren't.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, well, this has been fun.
So
What
fun.
Tell me, though, why are you excited about this podcast?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm excited to be doing a podcast again. I will say I have missed that outlet over the last several years. I love talking shop. I love talking about design. I
Yeah.
love, like the zeitgeist, like talking about what's in popular culture, whether it's fashion or show or music or any of those things. And I like that we're exploring some of those tidbits as well. I mean, what I really am excited about for this particular podcast is the fact that we're doing it together, and then I get to spend time with my friend. And, I feel like the audience will enjoy sort of being a fly on the wall. I mean, that's sort of the intention, is like we're having these conversations. These are conversations we would be having offline regardless. And so it's fun to let an audience in, to see like what we talk about in terms of
Yeah.
design, business, life.
Yes, I know. I have to. It's interesting too that you said um that you curse every now and then,
Oh.
because I have a real potty mouth. I went to a women's college and
Mhm.
spent our time with our hair in a chip clip, smoking cigarettes, drinking Diet Coke, and cursing like sailors. Unlike what you might think of, you would get at a women's college, it's much more, kind of down that road, and then I practiced law. I went to law school and practiced law around guys, so I
Mhm.
could cuss with the best of them, and you have to be a really close friend or work in the office.
Mhm.
I have to I have to, really dial that back and keep it, I never slip, but I'm afraid that these conversations are after we've done like 10 or 15 of these that I'll forget and I'll just feel like I'm just talking to you and turn that filter off of, "Oh, I people have children listening in the
Yeah.
car. They don't wanna have to turn this off." So,
Well, I'll be curious to see what yeah, let us know, actually, guys. Let us know. Send us a note. Do you want us to keep it prim and to, maintain the veneer that you've been accustomed to, or that you expect from us, the level of polish and, reserve, restraint, or do you want us to, like, let loose a little
yeah.
bit and drop the occasional F-bomb? Do you welcome that or not? I really would be curious to see what sometimes I think about that. I'm like, if people could see me, like, what I think they'd be surprised, because things go
I
wrong
would
and
be surprised. I would be surprised.
Yeah.
to yes, I would be surprised. I'm sure you are not I mean, you have certainly heard me curse
Yeah.
because, I it's but, yeah, so but I can turn it off. People have kids in the car and they don't have
Mhm.
to worry
Definitely.
about it. I'll mind my P's and Q's, but, anyway, okay. Well, this has been fun.
So fun. Thank you guys for spending time with us today.
Hey guys, thanks for spending time with us today. We want to hear from you. Do you have a burning design quandary or really just want a product recommendation? We'll choose one question each week to answer during the episode. Send your email to questions@theinstallpodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, review, and follow us at The Install Podcast, at Paloma Contreras Design, and at Caroline Jedier Design. This is The Install. We'll see you next week.